Good morning, and join us today as we discover how wealth empowers.
Now it's time for Gary Lawrence Live with Dr. Gary and his co-host, Paul Frederecks. Dr. Gary is a personal development coach, motivational speaker, and author. He coaches professionals, individuals, as well as entire families. Dr. Gary wholeheartedly believes successful people are not people without problems. They are people who have learned to solve their problems. Paul Frederecks lends his expertise to the program in the area of personal and business development. The next 30 minutes will be a time of encouragement, education, and entertainment. Take a few minutes to tune into Gary Lawrence Live. Enhance your personal and professional life and learn how to make a life, not just a living. Let's join Dr. Gary and Paul now.
Good morning. Welcome to Gary Lawrence Live. I'm Paul Frederecks, the co-host, and today we're inviting you to join us as we are on a mission. And that mission is simply this. We want to provide you the tools so you can achieve optimal emotional, spiritual, and financial freedom, with the underlying principle being, if you're in financial bondage, there's mental and emotional turmoil in your life. You deserve better. And as you listen to us today, you'll learn how you can stop being a circumstantial creator and become an intentional creator. Now, Dr. Gary, you're a FAB member with Renatus. Let's talk about that to our listeners. What is a FAB member?
Well, that just means I'm a fabulous person.
Can we call Sylvia on that?
No, don't.
Jeremy, get Sylvia on the line, would you, please?
Well, to be a Founders Advisory Board member for Renatus just means that I have the privilege, the honor, and the joy of helping to give input for the direction of Renatus. And if you would have told me that at the age of 70 that I would be one of the key leaders for one of the most significant up-and-coming educational systems in America, I wouldn't have believed it 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, when I was going through bankruptcy.
Wow.
You know. But, Paul, the bottom line is everybody listening to us has gone through some dark times. They've gone through some valleys. And, the scriptures tell us that God does not look at the things that people look at, but people look at the outward appearance, but God looks on the heart. And the Lord can see things in us that other people cannot see. And when Bob Snyder called me, oh my goodness, it's been a little over 2 years ago, and says the Founders Advisory Board has voted unanimously to invite me to join it, it was a blessing. It was a shocker because, I had my own counseling practice for almost 25 years. I had been on the radio for 20 years, and I retired when I was 59. And from age 59 to 64, I was on a journey to find a vehicle that would restore Sylvia and I financially, because after I retired, we found out we'd lost most of our retirement in the stock crash.
Right.
And when I was introduced to Renatus, I embraced it with passion. I embraced it with a laser vision. And, the bottom line is, Paul, and ladies and gentlemen, you can identify with what I'm about to say. Sometimes our own thoughts will try to convince us that we don't measure up. Now, stop and look at the picture. Here I am. I'm 64. I'm no longer the Dr. Gary Lawrence. I'm no longer the radio personality. I had a daily radio talk show Monday through Friday,
right,
from 12 noon to 1. It was called Life Mastery Counseling with Dr. Gary. And but when you go through those dark valleys, you lose your direction.
Mm-hmm.
And with everything I knew, I had lost my direction. What's that old saying? If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, Paul.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. And I know there's men and women listening to us today that don't know where they're going. And that's why we have an exciting guest. I love this guy.
Good guy.
His name is David Cole, coming to us from Chicago, Illinois. Used to be a college professor. All of a sudden, after working for that college for about 8 years, 3 different positions, 14 hours a day, he was abruptly laid off. And he didn't go into shock. His wife, Brody, was more calm about it than he was. But here's how God intervenes. 2 months after David lost that position, he was introduced to Renas. It was one of our key leaders, Scott and Nancy Rowe, up in Chicago, Illinois. We love those people. And anyway, he still had the opinion that he wanted to contribute to the family's future by building a business, building systems that would allow his wife to join him.
Right.
He never wanted to go back to work for someone else. Can you identify that, folks? Let's bring David on. Hey, David, how you doing today?
Hello, guys. How are you?
Doing great, man. If you got any better, there'd have to be three, me, David. So, anyway, Paul, you were on David's blog.
Right.
And yesterday we talked about his background, what they went through to get where they are today. He's a 37-year-old entrepreneur. Started his journey in real estate investing when he was about 33, going on 34. And he's very successful with it. He got focused on the Renatus education, positioned himself to listen to key leaders like I think Steve Soule,
Right.
Scott Rowe, and several others, Justin King. I love Justin King. Justin used to be a teacher.
Right.
And now he's a very successful real estate investor. But why don't you go ahead and talk to David about what you read on his blog, because you seem to be captivated by his information.
Well, yes. If you go to his website, which is colequitygroup.wordpress.com, you'll see on one of the links that there's a reason to invest in real estate. And David, can we just walk down these reasons here together?
Yes, definitely.
You mentioned number one. Reason number one is leverage. Banks typically will not loan you money to buy stocks. Now, why is that? I mean, if I want to go out and buy 10,000 shares of Apple, I mean, that's a reliable company. Why won't they loan me money for that?
Oh, yeah, that's reliable.
Well, I mean, they're not going to loan you money on something that's not secured by something real. Banks want security, and that's all that they're about is security. And so that's why banks won't loan on something flimsy like a stock, that's something that fluctuates like crazy. But they will loan you on real estate. They will loan you to start a business. They will loan you on something that has physical value. So you've got to leverage the bank.
Okay, and so why is real estate more secure than a stock?
Well, because the bank could literally foreclose on you if you don't pay your bills and sell the property and get their money back. Whereas they can't do that on a stock. If they sell it and you've already lost all your money, then they've lost their money also.
But here you are, David. You've been with the same college for 8 years. You're laid off. I'm sure that you and Brody weren't just floating with lots of cash. Part of the education is you learn how to do the deal by getting other people, other investors in the Renas community to partner with you. Do you really depend on the banks?
No. And in fact, when I say leverage your bank, I don't necessarily mean a physical bank. So, Dr. Gary, you could be my bank.
Yeah.
I could come to you and say, look, I'm looking for a 90-day loan of $50,000 at this % interest, and this is the property, and show you all the details, and you may be blown away by it. You actually see the value. Whereas if I came to you and said, well, Dr. Gary, I hear Apple's gonna be coming out with a new iPad soon, and I want to invest in it, you're probably not going to be as eager to put into that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You might as well take your money to Las Vegas.
And and if you do ask Dr. Gary for a loan with that $50,000, let's just bring that out a little bit. He can be first in line on that loan. So if something goes awry with you, he can take that property under control and turn around and flip it, fix it, buy and hold it, and a number of options. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have death clauses in my operating agreements with my partners and things like that in case something happens to me, so that they can take over, or my wife would take over, or whatever would be the case. Yeah, depending on the person of the agreement.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to David Cole from Chicago, Illinois with the Renatus Group. We're on Gary Lawrence Live. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to talk to you about something just as exciting as investing, and that's our Investor Business Forum. Dr. Gary?
And before I tell our audience about that, David, I'm going to come back in just about a minute and a half. I want to talk to you about the challenge you were facing making the transformation from being a college professor to literally learning how to become a successful, sophisticated real estate investor. Will you do that for me?
I look forward to it.
All right. God bless you, buddy. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Paul and I are hosting another exciting event. Now, this is not a boring business meeting. This is a investor business forum being held right here in the Valley, and we want to give you an opportunity to be our personal guest. And by the way, there's no cost. It's not going to charge you. It's not going to cost you a penny. You're going to be our guest. But you're going to have to call me so I can get acquainted with you. Now, all we're going to do is spend a few minutes on the phone and get acquainted. And, Paul, I love it when people from Gary Lawrence Live audience come to our events.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, we get all kinds of responses. They're amazed that this 70-year-old fellow looks as young as he does. Okay? And they're absolutely...
That's a matter of opinion.
Well, they're absolutely amazed that you look as good looking as you do.
Well, they realize why I'm on radio and not television real fast.
Because you have a face for radio. Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, let's have some fun together. If you are of the opinion at this time of your life, you're ready to at least investigate the opportunities, the possibilities of making a change in your life, you owe it to yourself to call me, and I'm going to give you my phone number. So write it down. It's 602-315-0844. That's 602-315-0844. Give me a call. Hey, for your sake, when you get my voicemail, leave a message with your name and your phone number. David Cole from Chicago, Illinois, is our guest today. Used to be a college professor. When he was 33 to 34 years old, he was abruptly terminated. Have you heard that before, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
A lot of people are being abruptly terminated. But as God had planned it and fate had it in the calendar of life, he was introduced to Renatus. Now he's a successful real estate investor, and he has the respect and admiration of people in the Renatus community.
Oh, including Scott and Nancy Rowe and Gene Powers that we've had recently.
From Chicago to other places in the nation. David, tell us about the challenge you faced in making that transformation from being the college professor to becoming a real estate investor.
Well, as a college professor, I was online. Most of my teaching I did was online. There was some physical training I did, but most of it I had students all across the country. Actually, some of them all across the world. I had some of our students serving in Iraq that were taking my classes from their computers out there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was very rewarding. And then I switched to a totally different track where it's more focused on homes, myself, my family, but I still wanted to be able to have that feeling of helping others. Mm-hmm. And so I designed my business to do that. To make that transition, I created the motto for my company to revitalize homes, to remodel homes, but revitalize neighborhoods.
Uh-huh.
And so I focused in on a low-income neighborhood that's up and coming here in Chicago named Humboldt Park, where I could do just that. I could build the neighborhood up, not just building houses.
That's great.
Now, wait. What I hear you saying, David, and I know you learned this from the Renatus education, you don't just look at one property in a neighborhood. You look at the whole neighborhood. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. The neighborhood is what matters, not just the house. You can find a house that looks like a great deal, and it might be or it might not be. But if you look at the whole neighborhood, you can really get an idea of whether or not that property is really valuable.
And something tells me you have a system of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I do. It's something that Justin Kane and I set up together as I actually started working with his systems and modifying them to fit my particular needs. and we evaluate a neighborhood, or in Chicago it's a neighborhood. If you were in the suburbs, it would probably be a whole zip code, because in the Chicago things can change on a block-to-block basis sometimes here.
Sure.
So I took a little neighborhood and I found out what was happening in that neighborhood. I went online to a place called Redfin.com, which is I think mostly nationwide, but not everywhere yet. And I researched all the houses that sold, put them in a spreadsheet. This only took me about 3 to 4 hours of work to put all these in a spreadsheet.
Wow.
And then I had a physical idea. So I'm following the step-by-step plan, and I can see what's happening without actually even going out to the properties to start. So I'm able to take care of my kid and do all this during his hour-and-a-half naps during a week.
Great.
Wow. Hey, let me ask you a question, David. If I fly to Chicago, how long would it take me to spend time with you, learn your systems?
Well, if we sat down together, it'll only take about a day, maybe, to really get the basics of them. Yeah.
Now, that leads us back to your blog about reasons to invest.
Yeah.
The second reason you said was value. Talk about how I'm looking at it. I don't want to give away the punchline here to our listeners. I'm going to let you do that. How do you buy a home with instant value?
And no money.
Yeah.
No money. I mean, if you're putting into a property, you're putting value into a project. Let's see here how to word this. If you've added assets to a property, like you just buy it at a discount, you already know what the property has in value. Right. You're able to buy it with value put in, such as somebody already did, like my most recent project. This is the best example. Somebody already did the gut. I didn't have to go in and do that. So I was able to buy it at a discount, and I didn't have to pay anybody to demo the entire building.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one way to do it right there. I've got some other ways listed out under the reason number 2 on my 6 reasons to invest on the website. If people would love to look at that, there's a lot of really good information on there where you can get a 6 to 10% gain on a house.
Right. And that leads into number 3, which is control, and reasons to control real estate. Unpack that for us.
Well, when you control, or when you buy that stock, let's go back to the stocks again. You can't really do anything to affect its value legally.
Right.
But if you've got a home, you have invested money into it. You can purchase it, you can change it, you can add value to it by modifying the house, by being a community outreacher and adding value to the neighborhood. That's one of my plans for the future, is to add parks to neighborhoods, which will add value to neighborhoods as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Playground. And you can add value to a neighborhood, not just your home. I plan on helping restaurant owners move into the neighborhoods that I'm working in as well, because that will add value to the neighborhood.
Sure.
You can't do that in the stock market. So you take control of your situation.
Yeah, even if you bought 1 million iPads, you wouldn't be able to affect the stock of a major corporation like Apple or anything else.
That's right.
So again, we're just going to go right down these. We're going right to reason number 4, superior tax position. The tax code really favors real estate owners, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. I attend a every other week session with Perrin Wetzel here in the city of Chicago.
Oh yeah.
And he's famous for telling everybody right off the bat on that meeting that a regular investor can only get maybe, I think it's like 12, 15 tax credits. But once you become a real estate owner or an entrepreneur that has real estate, you go over 400 investment tax credits.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Right.
So there's a lot of good information about tax credits.
Right. In our investor business forum, we open up people's eyes saying if you're a W-2 employee, you're only getting about 10 or 12 deductions.
I don't even think it's that many. I think it's about 6 or 7 deductions if you're a W-2 employee.
And then if you
I think those are the ones that people take advantage of mostly, yeah.
Right.
And if you jump over to the other side of the quadrant, you can have over 200 tax write-offs.
And
right.
Paul and David, here's something I want our audience to understand. If you're a W-2 employee, the bottom line is the first and the highest amount of money that you're ever going to be paying is taken out right away by the IRS.
Right.
Your taxes.
You have no choice.
You're in the highest tax bracket in America. I don't care what your income is. If you're a W-2 employee, you're paying through the nose, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is Gary Lawrence Live, and Paul Frederecks is my co-host, and David Cole from Chicago, Illinois is our special guest. We'll be back in a minute with David, but ladies and gentlemen, Paul and I are hosting another exciting investor business forum. Well, what is that? Well, it's a 2-hour experience. It's not one of those boring business meetings. This is not a MLM opportunity.
Right.
This is a chance for you to start doing some due diligence on how you can intelligently and effectively change your financial platform and your financial future. And Paul and I want to invite you to be our guest. Now, to make that happen, you're going to have to call me. So I'm going to give you my phone number, but I'm encouraging you to write it down. And Paul, I talked to a lady just 2 weeks ago. As a matter of fact, she just joined our team.
That's right.
And she had listened to me, are you ready for this, for 4 years. And she kept writing my phone number down. And something was said on one of our programs about 2 months ago that really got her attention. And folks, I know this isn't your typical Christian broadcast. This is not a gospel preaching ministry. It is a ministry of outreach to help God's people, the Christian community, realize you don't have to be broke. And you know, when you're broke, you can't give to missions. When you're broke, you can't help others.
Right.
You know, if you're in a ditch financially yourself, you can't help other people get out of their ditch. So I'm going to give you my phone number. There's no cost to you. Here's my number. Write it down. It's 602-315-0844. That's 602-315-0844. David Cole is our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this. David, I want your comment on this next statement I'm going to make. Would you do that?
Yes.
And then we'll come back and finish the other 3 steps of why investing. Is that right, Paul?
Two left.
2 left. Okay. Okay, here's my statement. People don't fail in life because they want too much. They fail because they settle for too little. What say you, David?
That is a profound statement.
It is.
Boy, I'll tell you what, tell my wife, hey, Sylvia, I just talked to Dr. Gene. He's a profound fellow.
Well, yeah, because people do. They do settle. They think this is the best I have.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have to break barriers in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
When you break that barrier, and like I literally, it was scary buying your first house.
Yeah.
I put down lots of money of my own and plus other people's, which then you have a responsibility for other people's money.
Yeah.
Hey, David, real quick, about 30 seconds here left. Reason number 5 and 6, limit your exposure to risk and protecting your peace of mind. Wrap that up for us as we close today's program.
Of course, yeah. Limiting your exposure to risk. Things like the stock market jump radically. They jump up, they jump down, they're 10%, they're 1%, they're whatever. Real estate is usually on a steady track, barring recent events from a few years ago. And it's usually pretty predictable for the most part, depending on things that are going on. So you can feel more of that peace of mind. They blend together because you know where real estate is going for the most part, and you can predict it if you stay on top of it and if you're focused in a certain area.
Yeah, and David, the bottom line is, to say it very simply, real estate is real. The stock market's not.
I know, it should be the not real market, right?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, big time. I'll tell you. Hey, ask me about it. I lost most of my retirement portfolio in the stock crash.
We have family members who are in the same boat. Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, it really is. David, we're going to come back tomorrow with you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, success is not a destination. It's a journey, and you can succeed. All that's given to anyone is given to you. Now, I want you to listen carefully. Success is not final, but failure is not fatal. And an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. You are full of the power of success. Now, why do I say this? It's real simple. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. I'm Dr. G, and I want you to create success.
You've been listening to Gary Lawrence Live with Dr. Gary Lawrence, personal coach, motivational speaker, and author, along with co-host Paul Frederecks. Dr. Gary has personally coached over 20,000 people just like you and helped them identify, isolate, and eliminate conflicts in their lives. For your copy of Dr. Gary's book, Rejection Junkies, and for information regarding his coaching program and income opportunities, call 602-315-0844. That's 602-315-0844. Or visit his website, wealthempowers.com. That's wealthempowers.com. And remember this, the best way to predict the future is to create it. We wish you success.